The December rain fell like frozen needles on the streets of Portland. Rachel Bennett sat on a metal bench at the bus stop, her whole body shaking as she clutched her baby daughter closer to her chest. Sophie was 6 months old and whimpering softly against the cold. The thin blanket Rachel had wrapped around her was soaked through. Rachel's own jacket was threadbare, offering almost no protection from the bitter wind that cut through the downtown streets. She had been sitting there for 3 hours. The last bus had come and gone, but Rachel had no money for fare. She had no money for anything. In her pocket was an eviction notice. In her purse was $4.37. In her arms was a sick baby who needed medicine, warmth, and food. Rachel did not know what to do. She had called every shelter in Portland. All were full. She had called her sister in Seattle, but the phone went straight to voicemail. She had tried to get into the warming center downtown, but they had closed early due to overcrowding. Now she sat at this bus stop because it had a small overhang that provided some shelter from the rain. Sophie started crying louder. Rachel rocked her gently, tears streaming down her own face. She was a nurse. She was supposed to take care of people. She was supposed to be strong. But right now, she felt like the weakest person in the world. Her daughter was cold and hungry, and Rachel could do nothing to help her. The streets were mostly empty. A few cars passed by, their headlights cutting through the rain. Rachel wondered if anyone could see her sitting there. She wondered if anyone would care even if they did see her. In the 6 months since Tyler had left her, Rachel had learned that kindness was rare. Most people looked away from trouble. Most people did not want to get involved. She thought about the hospital where she used to work. She had loved being a nurse. She had loved helping patients, comforting families, and making a difference. But when Sophie got sick last month, Rachel had missed too many shifts. The hospital had to let her go. They said they were sorry. They said they understood. But sorry and understanding did not pay the rent. Sorry and understanding did not feed a baby. Rachel's landlord had given her 2 weeks to get out after she missed the second month of rent. She had tried to find another apartment, but no one would rent to a single mother with no job and no references. She had applied to other hospitals, but the hiring process took time. Time she did not have. So here she was, homeless with a baby in the freezing rain. This was the lowest point of her life. This was rock bottom. Rachel did not know how things could get any worse. A black car slowed down near the bus stop. Rachel tensed. She had heard stories about people who preyed on vulnerable women. She held Sophie tighter and tried to look away. But the car stopped completely, and a man got out. He was tall and wore an expensive coat. His dark hair was slightly gray at the temples. He looked to be in his late 30s or early 40s. He walked toward Rachel, and she shrank back on the bench. The man stopped a few feet away. His face was kind but concerned. He looked at Rachel, then at the baby in her arms, then at the rain falling all around them. "Are you okay?" he asked. His voice was gentle. Rachel wanted to say yes. She wanted to say she was fine, and he should leave her alone. But she looked down at Sophie, saw her daughter's blue-tinged lips, and felt her tiny body shivering. Rachel could not lie. Not when Sophie needed help. "No," Rachel whispered. "I am not okay." The man crouched down, so he was at eye level with Rachel. He did not get too close. He did not touch her. He just looked at her with the most compassionate eyes Rachel had ever seen. "My name is Benjamin Harrison," he said. "Everyone calls me Ben. I was driving home from work and saw you sitting here. You and your baby are freezing. Please, let me help you." Rachel shook her head. "I do not have money to pay you." "I am not asking for money," Ben said softly. "I am offering help. I have a big house not far from here. It is warm. It has food. You and your baby can stay there tonight, at least until the rain stops and you figure out what to do next." Rachel looked into his eyes. She had learned to be suspicious of everyone. Tyler had taught her that men could not be trusted. Her landlord had taught her that people cared more about money than compassion. But something in Ben's face made her want to trust him. Maybe it was desperation. Maybe it was hope. Or maybe it was divine intervention, sending her someone good when she needed it most. Sophie cried again, her little voice weak and tired. Rachel made her decision. "Okay," she said quietly. "Okay. Are you the kind of person who would stop to help a stranger in need, or would you keep driving? Comment below and subscribe so you never miss a story that reminds us all what real kindness looks like. Ben smiled with relief. He went back to his car and returned with a large umbrella and a warm blanket. He held the umbrella over Rachel while she wrapped the dry blanket around Sophie. Then he helped Rachel stand up, careful not to touch her in a way that might make her uncomfortable. "My car is right here," he said. "Let me take you home." Rachel nodded and followed Ben to the car. It was a nice vehicle, clean and warm inside. Ben turned the heat on high as soon as they got in. He did not ask questions. He just drove through the wet streets of Portland toward the hills where the expensive houses sat overlooking the city. Rachel held Sophie close and felt warmth seeping back into her body. She did not know who this man was or why he was helping her. But right now, she was too tired and cold to question it. Right now, she just needed to trust that maybe, just maybe, there was still kindness left in the world. Ben's house was nothing like Rachel had expected. As they pulled up the long driveway, she saw a beautiful two-story home with large windows that glowed with warm light. The yard was well maintained even in winter, with neat hedges and a stone pathway leading to the front door. "This is where you live?" Rachel asked, her voice filled with disbelief. "Yes," Ben said simply. He parked in the garage and came around to help Rachel out of the car. "I know it is a big house for one person. It feels too big most days." They went inside, and Rachel found herself standing in a spacious entryway with hardwood floors and artwork on the walls. The house was clean but somehow felt empty, as if it was waiting for life to fill it again. "Come this way," Ben said, leading Rachel through the house. "Let me show you to a guest room. You and the baby can rest there." He took them upstairs to a large bedroom with a queen-size bed, an attached bathroom, and even a small sitting area. The room was decorated in soft blues and whites, with thick curtains and plush carpet. "This is too much," Rachel said. "You do not even know us." Ben turned to look at her. "I know you are a mother trying to protect her child. I know you are in trouble and need help. That is enough for me." Rachel felt tears welling up in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you so much." "Let me get you some towels and dry clothes," Ben said. "Then I will make something warm for you to eat. Do you have formula for the baby?" Rachel shook her head. "I ran out this morning. I have been nursing her, but I do not think I am producing enough milk because I have not eaten much lately. I will go to the store right now and get formula, diapers, and whatever else you need," Ben said. "Make a list if you can. In the meantime, there are clean towels in the bathroom. Take a hot shower and get warm. I will be back in 20 minutes. Before Rachel could protest, Ben was gone. She heard his car start in the garage and pull away. For a moment, Rachel just stood there holding Sophie, unsure if this was real or some kind of dream. But Sophie whimpered again, reminding Rachel that her daughter needed care. Rachel went into the bathroom and found it stocked with fresh towels, soap, shampoo, and everything else she might need. She carefully set Sophie down on a thick bath mat and turned on the shower. The hot water felt like heaven on her frozen skin. She washed quickly, not wanting to leave Sophie alone for too long, and then dried off with the softest towels she had ever felt. In the bedroom, Rachel found a note on the bed. In neat handwriting, it said, "Guest closet has some clothes that might fit. Please help yourself to anything you need." Rachel opened the closet and found it filled with women's clothing. Everything was clean and neatly organized, though the styles were a few years old. Rachel wondered who these clothes belonged to, but she did not have time to think about it. She found sweatpants and a warm sweater that fit well enough, then wrapped Sophie in a soft blanket from the bed. By the time Ben returned, Rachel was sitting in the bedroom chair, with Sophie asleep in her arms. Ben knocked softly on the door before entering. "I got formula, diapers, baby food, some children's medicine, and a few other things," he said, setting several bags down. "I was not sure what brand to get, so I asked the pharmacist for help. She said these were good options." Rachel looked at the bags and felt her throat tighten with emotion. There was so much stuff. More than she could have afforded even when she was working. "How much do I owe you?" Rachel asked. "Nothing," Ben said firmly. "Please, let me do this. I want to help." "But this is too much," Rachel protested. "I cannot just take all of this from you." Ben sat down in the chair across from her. He looked tired, as if he had been carrying a heavy weight for a long time. 3 years ago, I lost my wife to cancer, he said quietly. Her name was Jennifer. She was the kindest person I ever knew. She spent her whole life helping other people. Before she died, she made me promise that I would not close myself off from the world. She made me promise that I would continue doing good things for people who needed help. Rachel listened, her heart aching for this man who had lost so much. For 3 years, I have been going through the motions, Ben continued. I work all day. I come home to this empty house. I sleep. I repeat. I have not been keeping my promise to Jennifer. But tonight, when I saw you at that bus stop, I heard her voice in my head telling me to stop. Telling me to help. So please, let me do this. Not because you owe me anything, but because helping you helps me honor my wife's memory. Rachel wiped tears from her eyes. I do not know what to say. Say you will stay here until you get back on your feet, Ben said. Say you will let me help you find a job and a place to live. Say you will give me a chance to remember what it feels like to do something good for someone else. Rachel looked down at Sophie, who was sleeping peacefully for the first time in days. She looked around the warm, comfortable room. She thought about the freezing bus stop and the empty shelters. She thought about how desperate she had felt just a few hours ago. Yes, Rachel said. Yes, I will stay. And thank you. Thank you for saving us. Ben smiled, and it was the first genuine smile Rachel had seen on his face. Come downstairs when you are ready. I am going to make us some dinner. As Ben left the room, Rachel sat there holding her sleeping daughter and feeling something she had not felt in a very long time. She felt hope. Rachel woke up the next morning in the softest bed she had ever slept in. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then she heard Sophie cooing in the portable crib that Ben had somehow produced during the night, and everything came rushing back. She was in a stranger's house. A kind stranger who had taken her in from the cold. Rachel got up and fed Sophie, changed a diaper, and dressed her in clean clothes from the bags Ben had bought. The baby looked so much better this morning. Her cheeks had color again, and her eyes were bright. There was a knock on the door. Rachel, are you awake? Ben's voice called softly. Yes, come in, Rachel said. Ben entered carrying a tray with breakfast. I was not sure what you liked, so I made a little bit of everything. Scrambled eggs, toast, fruit, and coffee. Rachel stared at the tray. No one had brought her breakfast in bed since she was a child. You did not have to do this. I wanted to, Ben said, setting the tray on the small table by the window. How is Sophie this morning? She is much better, Rachel said. The warmth and food really helped. Thank you again for everything. You have thanked me enough, Ben said with a gentle smile. Eat your breakfast. I took the day off work. When you are ready, maybe we can talk about your situation and figure out how to help you move forward. Rachel nodded and sat down to eat. The food was delicious, and she realized just how hungry she had been. Ben sat across from her with his own cup of coffee and waited patiently. After she finished eating, Rachel took a deep breath. I suppose you want to know my whole story. Only if you want to tell me, Ben said. But it might help me understand how best to help you. So Rachel told him everything. She told him about meeting Tyler 2 years ago at a hospital fundraiser. He had been charming and attentive. They had dated for 6 months before moving in together. Rachel had thought he was the one. She had dreamed of marriage and a family. But when Rachel got pregnant, Tyler changed. He started staying out late. He stopped contributing to rent. He became distant and cold. When Sophie was born, Tyler stayed at the hospital for 1 hour before leaving. He said he needed to think. That was 6 months ago, and Rachel had not heard from him since. He just left, Rachel said, her voice breaking. He left me alone with a newborn baby. I tried to handle everything on my own. I went back to work after 3 months, but Sophie got sick a lot that first winter. I missed too many shifts. The hospital let me go. They said they had to, that they needed reliable staff. Ben listened without interrupting, his face full of compassion. I fell behind on rent, Rachel continued. My landlord gave me one chance, then another, but eventually he said he had to evict me. I tried to find another job, another apartment, But everything takes time. And when you are homeless with a baby, nobody wants to take a chance on you. I called every shelter, every church, every charity. Everyone was full or could not help. I had nowhere to go. That is why I was at that bus stop. I did not know what else to do. When she finished talking, Rachel felt drained but also relieved. It felt good to tell someone the whole truth. Ben was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "You are one of the strongest people I have ever met." Rachel laughed bitterly. "I do not feel strong. I feel like a complete failure." "You are not a failure," Ben said firmly. "You are a single mother who was abandoned by someone who should have supported you. You lost your job through no fault of your own. You did everything you could to take care of your daughter. That is not failure. That is courage." Rachel felt tears streaming down her face again. She seemed to cry a lot lately. "Here is what I think we should do," Ben said. "First, you and Sophie stay here as long as you need to. I have plenty of space, and honestly, it is nice to have people in this house again. Second, I have friends at several hospitals in Portland. Let me make some calls and see if I can help you get your nursing job back. Third, we get you connected with a good lawyer to make sure Tyler cannot cause any trouble if he shows up again." "I cannot afford a lawyer," Rachel said. "I can," Ben said simply. "And before you protest, remember that I am doing this because I want to. Because it is the right thing to do. Because my wife would have done the same thing if she was still here." Rachel looked at this man who had appeared in her life like an angel. "Why are you so kind?" Ben smiled sadly. "When Jennifer was sick, so many people helped us. Friends, neighbors, even strangers. They brought food, drove us to appointments, sat with us in hospital waiting rooms. I learned that kindness is the most powerful force in the world. It kept us going through the darkest time of our lives. I want to pay that forward. I want to be the kind of person who helps, not the kind who looks away." Rachel felt something shift inside her chest. Maybe there was still good in the world. Maybe she could trust again. Maybe things could get better. "Okay," she said. "Okay, I will let you help me. But I promise, once I get back on my feet, I will pay you back somehow." "The only payment I want is to see you and Sophie happy and healthy," Ben said. "That is more than enough for me." Over the next week, Ben made good on his promises. He called his friend Gregory Mitchell, who was the director of nursing at Portland General Hospital, one of the largest hospitals in the city. Ben explained Rachel's situation without going into too much detail, and Gregory agreed to meet with Rachel for an interview. "He remembers you from your work at Community Medical," Ben told Rachel one morning over breakfast. "He said you had an excellent reputation as a nurse. The interview is just a formality. He wants to bring you on board." Rachel could hardly believe it. "Are you serious?" "Completely serious," Ben said. "The interview is tomorrow at 10 in the morning. I will watch Sophie while you go." "You do not have to do that," Rachel protested. "You have already done so much." "I want to," Ben said. "Besides, Sophie and I are becoming good friends. Right, Sophie?" Sophie, who was sitting in a high chair that Ben had bought, giggled and banged her spoon on the tray. Rachel laughed. It was a sound she had not heard from herself in months. The interview went even better than Rachel hoped. Gregory Mitchell was a kind man in his 50s who made her feel comfortable immediately. He asked about her experience, her approach to patient care, and her availability. "I want to be honest with you," Rachel said. "I have a 6-month-old daughter. I am a single mother. I need shifts that allow me to care for her." "I appreciate your honesty," Gregory said. "We have several nurses who are parents, and we try to be flexible with scheduling. How about 3 12-hour shifts per week? You could work 3 days in a row and have 4 days off with Sophie. Would that work for you?" Rachel felt like she might cry again. That would be perfect. "Great," Gregory said. "You can start next week. Welcome to Portland General." When Rachel returned to Ben's house, she ran inside with excitement. Ben was on the living room floor playing with Sophie, making funny faces that made the baby laugh. "I got the job," Rachel said. "I start next week." Ben stood up with a huge smile. "That is wonderful. I knew you would get it." Rachel rushed forward and hugged him without thinking. Ben stiffened for a moment, surprised, but then hugged her back gently. When Rachel pulled away, she felt her cheeks flush. "Sorry," she said. "I was just so excited." "Never apologize for that," Ben said warmly. "I am excited for you too." Later that week, Ben took Rachel to meet with a lawyer named Patricia Henderson. Patricia was a no-nonsense woman in her 40s who specialized in family law. She listened to Rachel's story and took notes. "The good news is that Tyler has no legal claim to Sophie," Patricia said. "He is not on the birth certificate. He never established paternity, and he abandoned you both. If he ever tries to come back and claim custody or ask for visitation, we can fight it easily." "What if he comes back and causes trouble?" Rachel asked. "Then we file for a restraining order," Patricia said. "I will draft some paperwork that establishes your sole custody and makes it clear that Tyler has no rights. If he shows up, you call the police, and then you call me. Understand?" Rachel nodded, feeling safer than she had in months. "One more thing," Patricia said. "If you ever need anything, legal or otherwise, you call me. Any friend of Ben's is a friend of mine. He is one of the good ones." As they left Patricia's office, Rachel turned to Ben. "She really likes you." "Patricia and her wife Michelle are good friends of mine," Ben explained. "They helped Jennifer and me when we were setting up our estate planning before she got sick. Patricia does not take on many new clients these days, but she agreed to help you as a favor to me." "You have good friends," Rachel observed. "I do," Ben agreed. "And I think you are going to love them. In fact, Patricia and Michelle want to have us over for dinner this weekend. They want to meet you and Sophie properly. Would you like to go?" Rachel hesitated. She was not used to socializing anymore. After Tyler left, she had isolated herself from everyone. "I know it is scary," Ben said gently, "but you do not have to face the world alone anymore. Let me introduce you to people who care, people who want to help." Rachel thought about it and nodded. "Okay, I would like that." That Saturday, they went to Patricia and Michelle's house in the suburbs. Michelle was a warm, friendly woman who immediately took Sophie into her arms and started cooing at her. Patricia grilled chicken on the back deck while Ben and Rachel sat at the patio table. "Ben tells us you are starting at Portland General next week," Michelle said. "That is wonderful." "I am nervous," Rachel admitted. "I have not worked in months. I hope I remember everything." "Nursing is like riding a bike," Patricia said. "It will all come back to you quickly. And if you need anything, the hospital has great support staff." They spent the evening talking, laughing, and sharing stories. For the first time in a long time, Rachel felt like she was part of a community. She felt like she belonged somewhere. As they drove home that night, Sophie asleep in her car seat, Rachel looked over at Ben. "Thank you for today," she said. "Thank you for introducing me to your friends. Thank you for making me feel less alone." "You were never alone," Ben said softly. "You just needed someone to remind you that there are good people in this world. People who care." Rachel smiled and looked out at the lights of Portland passing by. She thought about how different her life was from just 2 weeks ago. She had a place to live, a job starting soon, legal protection, and friends. But most importantly, she had hope again that Rachel's first day back at work was both exciting and terrifying. She woke up early, fed and dressed Sophie, and brought her downstairs to find Ben already awake and making breakfast. "Big day," he said with an encouraging smile. "How are you feeling?" "Nervous," Rachel admitted. "What if I mess up? What if I forgot everything?" "You are not going to mess up," Ben said firmly. "You are an excellent nurse. Trust yourself." Rachel ate breakfast while Ben entertained Sophie. At 8 in the morning, a knock came at the door. Ben went to answer it and returned with a woman in her 60s who had kind eyes and silver hair. "Rachel, this is my neighbor Margaret," Ben said. "She used to be a kindergarten teacher before she retired. She has agreed to watch Sophie during your shifts." "Only if you are comfortable with it, dear," Margaret said warmly. "Ben told me about your situation, and I would love to help. I miss being around little ones." Rachel felt overwhelmed. "Are you sure? I do not want to impose." "Nonsense," Margaret said. "It would be my pleasure. Besides, Ben tells me Sophie is a sweetheart. We are going to have wonderful times together." Rachel looked at Ben, who nodded encouragingly. "Okay," Rachel said. "Thank you so much, Margaret." Rachel showed Margaret where everything was for Sophie, then reluctantly left for the hospital. Her first shift was long and challenging, but Rachel found that Ben was right. Nursing came back to her naturally. Her patients appreciated her gentle bedside manner, and her fellow nurses welcomed her warmly. When Rachel came home 12 hours later, exhausted but satisfied, she found Margaret and Sophie in the living room. Sophie was happily playing with blocks while Margaret read her a story. "How did it go?" Ben asked, appearing from his home office. "It was wonderful," Rachel said, sinking into the couch. "I forgot how much I loved being a nurse. How much I loved helping people." "I am so glad," Ben said. And Sophie had a great day with Margaret. "She is a perfect angel," Margaret said, packing up her things. "Same time on Wednesday, Rachel." "Yes, please," Rachel said. "And thank you again." After Margaret left, Ben ordered pizza for dinner. They ate together in the dining room, and Rachel told him about her day. Ben listened intently, asking questions and seeming genuinely interested in her stories. "You know what I realized today?" Rachel said. "I have not felt this happy in over a year. Not since before I got pregnant. Maybe not even before that." "You deserve to be happy," Ben said. "You deserve good things." Over the next few weeks, Rachel settled into a comfortable routine. She worked her 3 12-hour shifts, spent time with Sophie on her days off, and slowly began to feel like herself again. She started saving money from each paycheck, determined to build up enough to eventually get her own apartment, though Ben kept telling her there was no rush. One evening after Sophie was asleep, Rachel came downstairs and found Ben in the kitchen making tea. "Cannot sleep?" he asked. "Just thinking," Rachel said. "Can I ask you something personal?" "Of course," Ben said, handing her a cup of tea. "Why have you never moved on after Jennifer?" Rachel asked gently. "You are a good man, Ben. You deserve to be happy too." Ben was quiet for a long moment. "I do not know," he finally said. "For a long time, I felt like moving on would be betraying Jennifer's memory. Like I was supposed to grieve forever. But lately, having you and Sophie here, I have realized that Jennifer would not have wanted that. She would have wanted me to live again, to find joy again." "She sounds like she was an amazing person," Rachel said. "She was," Ben agreed. "You remind me of her in some ways. Not in looks or anything like that, but in spirit. Jennifer was always thinking of others, always trying to help. You are the same way. Even when you were struggling, you never stopped trying to be a good mother to Sophie." Rachel felt her cheeks warm at the compliment. "I am just doing what any mother would do." "Not every mother," Ben said seriously. "Some people give up when things get hard. You never did. That takes real strength." They talked for another hour about their lives, their hopes, and their fears. Rachel realized she had never felt this comfortable with anyone before. Not even Tyler in the early days when things were good. As the weeks turned into months, the house became a real home. Ben started coming home from work earlier. Rachel cooked dinner on her days off. They took turns reading bedtime stories to Sophie. They went to the park together on sunny weekends. They laughed together over silly television shows at night. It was not romantic. At least, Rachel told herself it was not. But there was a warmth between them that went beyond friendship. A connection that made Rachel's heart beat faster when Ben smiled at her. A comfort that made her feel safe in a way she had never felt before. One Saturday morning, Ben announced he was taking them somewhere special. "Where are we going?" Rachel asked as they drove through Portland. "You will see," Ben said mysteriously. They pulled up to a beautiful park near the river. Ben led them to a spot where several people were gathered. Rachel recognized Patricia and Michelle, Gregory from the hospital, Margaret, and several other people she had met through Ben over the past months. "What is this?" Rachel asked. "A celebration," Patricia said, coming over to hug her. "Ben told us that today marks 3 months since you started your job at Portland General. We wanted to celebrate you." Rachel looked around at all these people who had become her friends. People who had shown her kindness when she needed it most. She felt tears welling up in her eyes for the 100th time since meeting Ben. They spent the afternoon having a picnic, playing with Sophie, and enjoying the beautiful spring weather. As Rachel watched Ben chase Sophie around the grass, both of them laughing, she realized something that both thrilled and terrified her. She was falling in love with Benjamin Harrison. The weeks that followed the park celebration brought even more changes to Rachel's life. One Sunday morning, Ben asked if she would like to go to church with him. "I have not been to church in years," Rachel admitted. "I sort of gave up on faith when Tyler left me." "I understand," Ben said. "I felt the same way when Jennifer died. I was angry at God for a long time. But eventually, I found my way back. The community at my church helped me through the darkest period of my life. You do not have to believe everything or even agree with everything. But I think you might like the people there." Rachel agreed to go, mostly because she trusted Ben. The church was a medium-sized building in downtown Portland with a simple but beautiful interior. As soon as they walked in, people greeted them warmly. Several women immediately gravitated toward Sophie, asking if they could hold her. After the service, a group of women approached Rachel. The leader was a woman named Beth, who had warm brown eyes and an infectious smile. "Ben told us a little bit about your story," Beth said. "We would love to have you join our women's group. We meet on Thursday evenings for Bible study and fellowship, but mostly we just support each other." "I work 12-hour shifts 3 days a week," Rachel explained. "I do not know if I could make it every week." "That is fine," Beth said. "Come when you can. There is no pressure. We just want you to know you have a community here." The next Thursday, Rachel decided to try the women's group. Ben stayed home with Sophie and encouraged Rachel to go. When Rachel arrived at the church meeting room, she found about 15 women of all ages gathered around tables with coffee and snacks. Beth introduced Rachel to everyone, and they spent the first hour just talking and getting to know each other. Rachel was surprised by how open everyone was about their struggles. One woman talked about her divorce. Another discussed a battle with depression. A third shared about losing her job and finding a new one. When it was Rachel's turn to share, she told her story. She told them about Tyler leaving, about being homeless with Sophie, about Ben finding her at the bus stop. By the time she finished, several women were crying. "You are so brave," one woman said. "I do not feel brave," Rachel replied. "I feel like I just barely survived." "Sometimes survival is the bravest thing we can do," Beth said wisely. "And now you are not just surviving. You are thriving. That is something to celebrate." At the end of the meeting, Beth pulled Rachel aside. "Some of us were talking, and we want to do something special for you and Sophie. Would you be okay with us organizing a baby shower? We know Sophie is already 6 months old, but we thought it might be nice to celebrate her and give you some things you might need." Rachel started to protest, but Beth held up her hand. "Before you say it is too much, remember that this is what community does. We take care of each other. We celebrate each other. Please let us do this for you." Rachel nodded, too emotional to speak. The baby shower took place 2 weeks later at the church. Rachel was amazed by the turnout. Not only were all the women from the group there, but also Patricia and Michelle, Margaret, several nurses from Portland General, and even some of Ben's business associates and their wives. The room was decorated with balloons and streamers in yellow and green. There was food, games, and laughter. Sophie sat in her little chair, clapping her hands and giggling at all the attention. The gifts were overwhelming. Clothes in various sizes so Sophie could grow into them. Toys and books. A savings bond for Sophie's future education. Diapers and formula. Everything Rachel could possibly need and more. When it came time to open the last gift, Beth handed Rachel a large envelope. Inside was a card signed by everyone at the church. But there was also something else. A check for $2,000. "We took up a collection," Beth explained. "We know you are saving for your own place eventually. We want to help you get there." Rachel burst into tears. She could not help it. All these people, most of whom she had only known for a few weeks, had come together to support her. It was more kindness than she had ever experienced in her entire life. Ben, who had been standing in the corner watching everything, came over and put a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You deserve this," he whispered. "You deserve all of this." That evening, as they drove home with a car packed full of gifts, Rachel felt something she had not felt in years. She felt blessed. She felt like maybe God had not forgotten about her after all. Maybe he had just been waiting for the right moment to send help. And that help had come in the form of Ben, this community, and all these people who cared. "Thank you for bringing me to your church," Rachel said to Ben. "Thank you for introducing me to all these wonderful people." "They love you," Ben said simply. "Everyone who meets you loves you. You have that effect on people." Rachel smiled and looked back at Sophie, who was fast asleep in her car seat surrounded by bags of gifts. Her daughter would grow up knowing kindness. She would grow up in a community that cared. She would grow up feeling loved. That was all Rachel had ever wanted. Spring turned into summer, and life continued to improve for Rachel. She excelled at her job, made close friends with several of her fellow nurses, and became an active member of the church community. Sophie was growing bigger every day, hitting milestones that filled Rachel with joy and pride. But something else was growing too. Rachel's feelings for Ben had deepened into something she could no longer ignore. She found herself looking forward to the evenings they spent together. She loved watching him read bedtime stories to Sophie in different silly voices. She cherished their late-night conversations over tea. She felt her heart skip when he smiled at her. Rachel tried to push these feelings away. Ben was her benefactor, her friend, the man who had saved her life. She did not want to complicate their relationship or make him uncomfortable. Besides, she told herself, someone like Ben would never be interested in someone like her. He was successful, educated, and kind. She was a single mother with a troubled past. But then small things started happening that made Rachel wonder if maybe Ben felt the same way. One Saturday morning, Rachel woke up to find a vase of fresh flowers on the kitchen table with a note that said, "Just because you deserve beautiful things." Another evening, Ben came home from work with a small gift bag. "I saw this and thought of you," he said, handing it to Rachel. Inside was a beautiful necklace with a delicate silver pendant shaped like a heart. "Ben, this is too much," Rachel protested. "It is just a small thing," Ben said, but his eyes were soft as he looked at her. "I wanted you to have something that reminded you that you are valued." Rachel wore the necklace every day after that. They started taking walks together after Sophie went to bed, strolling through the quiet neighborhood while talking about everything and nothing. One warm evening, they walked to a nearby park and sat on a bench overlooking the city lights. "Can I tell you something?" Ben asked suddenly. "Of course," Rachel said, her heart beating faster. "Having you and Sophie here has changed my life," Ben said. "For 3 years, I was just going through the motions. I was not really living. But now, I wake up looking forward to the day. I come home excited to see you both. This house finally feels like a home again." Rachel felt her breath catch. "You have changed my life too. You saved us, Ben. You gave me hope when I had none." Ben turned to look at her, and in the dim light, Rachel could see the emotion in his eyes. "I need to be honest with you," he said. "My feelings for you have become more than friendship. I care about you, Rachel. I care about you in a way that scares me because I did not think I could feel this way again after Jennifer." Rachel's heart soared. "I care about you too," she whispered. "I have been trying to hide it because I did not want to ruin what we have. But I cannot hide it anymore. I think I am falling in love with you." Ben reached out and took her hand. His touch was gentle, tentative, as if he was afraid she might pull away. But Rachel did not pull away. She squeezed his hand back. "I do not want to rush anything," Ben said. "I do not want to pressure you or make you feel obligated because I helped you. Your feelings need to be real and free, not based on gratitude." "They are real," Rachel said firmly. "Yes, I am grateful for everything you have done. But what I feel for you goes beyond gratitude. I love spending time with you. I love how kind you are, how patient, how caring. I love watching you with Sophie. I love everything about you." Ben smiled, and it was the most beautiful smile Rachel had ever seen. Slowly, carefully, he leaned in and kissed her. It was a soft, sweet kiss that made Rachel feel like she was floating. When they pulled apart, both of them were smiling. "I have wanted to do that for weeks," Ben admitted. "Me too," Rachel laughed. They walked back to the house hand in hand, talking about what this meant for them. They agreed to take things slowly, to make sure Sophie was comfortable with the changes, to be honest with each other about their feelings. Over the next few weeks, their relationship deepened. They went on actual dates, with Margaret happily babysitting Sophie. They held hands while watching movies. They kissed goodnight before going to their separate bedrooms. It was sweet and perfect and everything Rachel had never thought she could have. One evening, Ben took Rachel to a nice restaurant downtown. They sat by the window overlooking the river, talking and laughing over a delicious meal. "I want to tell you something," Ben said as they shared dessert. "I have been thinking about the future, about what I want my life to look like." "What do you want?" Rachel asked. "I want you," Ben said simply. "I want Sophie. I want us to be a family. Not just people living in the same house, but a real family." Rachel felt tears in her eyes. Happy tears this time. "I want that too." "I know it is soon," Ben continued. "I know we should probably wait longer before making any big decisions. But I am 42 years old, Rachel. I spent 3 years being lonely and closed off. I do not want to waste any more time. Life is short. We both know that. So if you are willing, I would like us to start thinking about this as something permanent. Something real." "Yes," Rachel said without hesitation. "Yes, I want that." Ben reached across the table and took her hand. "You have brought light back into my life. You and Sophie have given me a reason to live again, not just exist. I promise I will spend the rest of my life making sure you both feel loved and safe and valued." "You already do," Rachel said, squeezing his hand. "Every single day." As they drove home that night, Rachel looked out at the city lights and marveled at how much her life had changed. 6 months ago, she had been homeless and hopeless. Now she had a job, a home, a community, and a man who loved her. She had everything she had ever dreamed of and more. She thought about the frozen bus stop where Ben had found her. She thought about how close she had come to giving up. And she thanked God for sending her an angel in the form of a lonely CEO who had stopped his car on a rainy night. Some people called it luck. Some called it coincidence. But Rachel knew it was something more. It was grace. It was kindness. It was love. And it was just the beginning. Life continued beautifully through the summer. Rachel, Ben, and Sophie became known around the neighborhood as the little family in the house on the hill. They went to church together every Sunday. They had dinner parties with friends. They took Sophie to the zoo, the children's museum, and the park. They were happy. But happiness, Rachel had learned, was fragile. It was a Tuesday afternoon in late August when Rachel's phone rang. She was at home with Sophie, enjoying her day off, while Ben was at work. The number was unknown, but Rachel answered anyway. "Rachel? It is me. It is Tyler." Rachel's blood ran cold. She had not heard Tyler's voice in almost a year. She had hoped she would never hear it again. "What do you want?" Rachel asked, keeping her voice steady even though her hands were shaking. "I heard you are doing well," Tyler said. His voice had that fake friendly tone that Rachel remembered from the end of their relationship. "I heard you are living with some rich guy in a nice house. You landed on your feet pretty quick." "I am hanging up now," Rachel said. "Wait," Tyler said quickly. "I want to see Sophie. She is my daughter too. I have rights." "You have no rights," Rachel said firmly. "You left us. You abandoned your daughter when she was a newborn. You do not get to come back now and play father." "That is not how the law works," Tyler said, and now his voice had an edge to it. "I am her biological father. I can prove it with a DNA test. And if you do not let me see her, I will take you to court." "Do whatever you want," Rachel said, trying to sound braver than she felt. "I have a lawyer. A good one. And she says you have no case." "We will see about that," Tyler said. "By the way, I saw online that your boyfriend Ben Harrison is worth a lot of money. Maybe we can work out a deal. You give me some money, and I go away quietly. Otherwise, I make things very difficult for you. Think about it." He hung up before Rachel could respond. She stood there holding the phone, her whole body trembling. Sophie was playing on the floor nearby, oblivious to what had just happened. Rachel sat down heavily on the couch, trying to catch her breath. Tyler was back, and he wanted money. Rachel immediately called Ben at work. His assistant put her through right away. "Rachel, What is wrong? Ben could hear the panic in her voice. Tyler called, Rachel said. He wants money. He is threatening to take me to court for custody of Sophie if I do not pay him. Where are you right now? Ben asked. At home with Sophie. Lock all the doors, Ben said. I am leaving the office right now. I will be there in 15 minutes. Then we are calling Patricia. Ben arrived home in record time. He found Rachel sitting on the couch with Sophie in her arms, both doors locked and all the curtains drawn. He sat down next to her and put his arms around both of them. It is going to be okay, he said. Tyler cannot hurt you. We are not going to let him. They called Patricia, who listened carefully to everything Tyler had said. Her voice was calm and professional. This is textbook extortion, Patricia said. Tyler is trying to scare you into giving him money. But he has no legal leg to stand on. He never established paternity. He is not on the birth certificate. He abandoned you both. No judge would give him custody or even visitation rights. But what if he tries something? Rachel asked. What if he shows up here? Then you call the police immediately, Patricia said. I am going to file for a restraining order tomorrow morning. And I am going to make it very clear to Tyler, through his lawyer if he has one, that any attempt to contact you or Ben or Sophie will result in legal consequences. Do not engage with him at all. Do not answer if he calls again. Do not respond to any messages. Let me handle everything. After they hung up with Patricia, Ben made another call. Within an hour, several people started arriving at the house. Patricia and Michelle came first, bringing legal documents and reassurance. Then came Gregory from the hospital with his wife. Then Beth from church with her husband. Then several other friends from the community. What is everyone doing here? Rachel asked, overwhelmed. We are here to support you, Beth said simply. When one of us is in trouble, we all stand together. That is what family does. They spent the evening strategizing. Patricia explained the legal process. Gregory offered to have hospital security walk Rachel to her car after shifts. Beth organized a phone tree so someone from church could check on Rachel every day. Ben's business partner offered to hire a private investigator to find out what Tyler was really up to. This is too much, Rachel protested. I cannot ask all of you to do this for me. You are not asking, Patricia said firmly. We are offering. And you are going to accept our help because that is what you do when people who care about you want to protect you. Do you believe that good people can overcome bad situations when they stand together? Subscribe and leave a comment about a time when your community supported you through something difficult. Over the next few days, Patricia worked quickly. She filed for a restraining order and sent a strongly worded letter to Tyler through a lawyer she discovered he had hired. The letter made it clear that any further contact would result in legal action and that Tyler had zero claim to Sophie. Tyler called Rachel's phone 3 more times, but she did not answer. Each time, she saved the voicemail as evidence. In them, Tyler alternated between threatening and pleading, demanding money and claiming he just wanted to be a father. On the 4th day, Tyler showed up. It was a Saturday morning. Ben was in the kitchen making breakfast while Rachel played with Sophie in the living room. The doorbell rang, and Ben went to answer it, thinking it might be Margaret stopping by. But when he opened the door, he found himself face to face with a man he had never met but instantly recognized. Tyler was in his late 20s, with unkempt hair and an arrogant expression. He tried to push past Ben into the house. I am here to see my daughter, Tyler announced. Ben blocked the doorway with his body. You need to leave. Now. Who are you to tell me what to do? Tyler sneered. This is between me and Rachel. Rachel has a restraining order against you, Ben said calmly. You are not allowed to be here. Leave, or I will call the police. I just want to see my kid, Tyler said, raising his voice. Rachel is keeping her from me. That is illegal. Rachel appeared behind Ben, her face pale but determined. You need to leave, Tyler. You have no rights here. She is my daughter, Tyler shouted. You cannot keep me away from her. By now, several neighbors had noticed the commotion. Margaret came out of her house across the street. 2 other neighbors appeared on their porches. Ben pulled out his phone and started dialing. I am calling the police, Ben said. You have 10 seconds to get off my property. I am not going anywhere until I see Sophie, Tyler said stubbornly. Then you will be arrested for violating a restraining order, Patricia's voice called out. She had just pulled into the driveway with Michelle. They both got out of the car and walked toward the door. Hello, Tyler. I am Rachel's lawyer, Patricia Henderson. You should not be here. Tyler looked around and seemed to realize he was outnumbered. This is not over, he said to Rachel. I will get my daughter, and I will get money from you and your rich boyfriend. Actually, it is over, Patricia said coolly. I have already spoken with your lawyer. He advised you not to come here. By showing up anyway, you have violated the restraining order. The police are already on their way, thanks to the call I made when I saw your car parked down the street. Sure enough, a police car pulled up moments later. 2 officers got out and approached the house. This is the man who is violating the restraining order, Patricia told the officers, pointing at Tyler. The officers looked at Tyler, then at the paperwork Patricia provided. So, you need to come with us, one of them said. Tyler's face turned red with anger. This is ridiculous. She is my daughter. You can argue that in court, the officer said. But right now, you are under arrest for violating a restraining order. Turn around and put your hands behind your back. Rachel watched as they handcuffed Tyler and put him in the back of the police car. She felt Ben's arm around her shoulders, holding her steady. Several more neighbors had come out now, standing in solidarity on their lawns, watching to make sure Rachel was okay. After the police car drove away with Tyler inside, Patricia turned to Rachel and Ben. He is going to spend the night in jail. Then he will have a court hearing on Monday. I will be there to argue that the restraining order should be made permanent and that Tyler should face additional charges for harassment and attempted extortion. What if he comes back? Rachel asked, her voice shaking. He will not, Patricia said confidently. Tyler is a coward who thought he could bully you into giving him money. But he just learned that you have people protecting you. People who will not let him hurt you. That is going to scare him more than any restraining order. Over the next few hours, more friends arrived at the house. Beth and several women from church brought food. Gregory called to check on Rachel. Margaret came over and stayed to help with Sophie. Michelle made tea and sat with Rachel, letting her talk through her fears. I was so scared, Rachel admitted. What if he had gotten inside? What if he had tried to take Sophie? But he did not, Michelle said gently. You were protected. Ben was here. Patricia arrived just in time. The police came quickly. You are safe, Rachel. Sophie is safe. And Tyler is not going to bother you again. How can you be sure? Rachel asked. Because men like Tyler only pick on people they think are weak and alone, Michelle explained. But you are not weak, and you are definitely not alone. He saw that today. He saw an entire community standing behind you. That is more powerful than any restraint order. That evening, after everyone had gone home and Sophie was asleep, Rachel and Ben sat together on the couch. Rachel was exhausted, emotionally drained from the day's events. Thank you for protecting us, she said to Ben. Always, Ben replied, pulling her close. I will always protect you and Sophie. You are my family now. Nothing is going to change that. Rachel rested her head on his shoulder and closed her eyes. She thought about how scared she had been when Tyler called. She thought about how he had shown up at the house, trying to intimidate her. But she also thought about all the people who had come to her defense. Ben, Patricia, Michelle, the neighbors, the church friends. All of them standing together, making sure she was safe. Tyler had thought he could bully her because she was alone. But he was wrong. She was not alone anymore. She had a family. A real family made up of people who cared about her and Sophie. People who would stand with her no matter what. And that was stronger than any threat Tyler could make. The court hearing on Monday went exactly as Patricia predicted. The judge listened to the evidence, including the voicemails Tyler had left and testimony from witnesses about his appearance at the house. Tyler's lawyer tried to argue that his client just wanted to be part of his daughter's life, but the judge was not convinced. Mr. Tyler abandoned his child when she was born, the judge said sternly. He made no attempt to establish paternity or provide support. He only reappeared when he learned the mother was living with someone of means. This court finds his motivations to be financial rather than parental. The restraining order is made permanent. Mr. Tyler is ordered to stay at least 500 feet away from Ms. Bennett, her daughter, and Mr. Harrison at all times. Any violation will result in immediate arrest. This court also finds sufficient evidence of attempted extortion and harassment to refer this case to the district attorney for criminal prosecution. Tyler left the courtroom defeated and angry, but he was gone. Rachel felt like a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. Life returned to normal after that, though normal was different now. Rachel felt safer, knowing that Tyler could not come back. But more than that, she felt loved and protected by her community. As fall arrived, bringing cooler weather and colorful leaves, Rachel and Ben's relationship continued to deepen. They talked about the future more seriously now. They discussed what it would mean to be a blended family, how to handle finances, and how to make sure Sophie always felt secure and loved. One October evening, Ben asked Rachel to go for a walk. Margaret came over to watch Sophie, giving Ben a knowing wink as they left. They walked to the same park where they had first confessed their feelings to each other months earlier. "I want to talk to you about something important," Ben said as they sat on their favorite bench. Rachel felt her heart start to race. She had an idea what was coming. Ben took both of her hands in his. "Rachel, 6 months ago, I found you at a bus stop on the worst night of your life. I thought I was just helping someone in need. I thought I was keeping a promise to Jennifer to be a good person. But what I did not expect was that helping you would save me too." Rachel felt tears forming in her eyes. "You brought life back into my house," Ben continued. "You brought laughter and joy and purpose. You reminded me what it feels like to care about someone, to look forward to coming home, to have a reason to wake up in the morning. You and Sophie have become my whole world." Ben reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. He opened it to reveal a beautiful diamond ring that sparkled in the evening light. "Rachel Bennett, will you marry me? Will you let me be your husband and Sophie's father? Will you build a life with me, a real family?" Rachel was crying now, happy tears streaming down her face. "Yes," she said. "Yes, yes, yes." Ben slipped the ring onto her finger and pulled her into his arms. They kissed as the sun set over Portland, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. When they got back to the house, Margaret was waiting with a huge smile. "Well?" she asked. Rachel held up her hand, showing off the ring. Margaret squealed with delight and hugged them both. The next few months were a whirlwind of wedding planning. But unlike some couples who faced that stress alone, Rachel and Ben had their entire community helping them. Beth and the church women organized the bridal shower. Patricia and Michelle helped with legal paperwork and finding the perfect venue. Margaret insisted on making the wedding cake. Gregory and his wife offered their beautiful garden for the ceremony. In April, exactly 1 year after Ben had found Rachel at that bus stop, they got married. It was a beautiful spring day with clear blue skies. The garden was filled with flowers in bloom. Chairs were arranged in neat rows for the guests, and everyone they cared about was there. Sophie, now 1 year old and walking steadily, served as the flower girl. She toddled down the aisle in a beautiful white dress, dropping flower petals and waving at everyone she passed. The guests laughed and smiled as she made her way to Ben, who scooped her up with joy. Then the music changed, and Rachel appeared at the end of the aisle. She wore a simple but elegant white dress and carried a bouquet of spring flowers. Her face was radiant with happiness. As she walked toward Ben, she thought about how far she had come. A year ago, she had been broken and hopeless. She had been sitting in the freezing rain with no future and no hope. But look at her now. She had a career she loved. She had friends who cared about her. She had a community that supported her. And most importantly, she had a man who loved her and wanted to build a life with her. The ceremony was beautiful. The pastor talked about love, faith, and second chances. He talked about how God puts people in our paths at exactly the right moment and how kindness can change lives. He told the story of how Ben found Rachel, and there was not a dry eye in the garden. When it came time for vows, Ben spoke first. "Rachel, you have taught me that it is never too late to start over. You have shown me that love can bloom even in the darkest times. You have given me a family and a purpose. I promise to love you, honor you, and protect you for the rest of my life. I promise to be the best father I can be to Sophie. I promise to never let you feel alone or afraid again." Rachel wiped away tears and spoke her vows. Ben, you saved my life in every way a person can be saved. You gave me shelter, but more than that, you gave me hope. You showed me that there are still good people in the world. You taught me how to trust again. I promise to love you with my whole heart. I promise to be a good wife and to honor the memory of Jennifer by treating our family with the same kindness she showed to others. I promise to make you happy for the rest of our lives. They exchanged rings and kissed as husband and wife, while everyone cheered. Sophie clapped her hands and yelled, "Dada," which made everyone laugh and cry at the same time. The reception was held in the same garden. There was music, dancing, and speeches. Patricia stood up and told everyone about how she had watched Rachel transform from a scared, broken woman into a confident, happy bride. Beth talked about the first time Rachel came to church and how she had immediately become a beloved member of their community. Gregory shared a story about Rachel's compassion as a nurse and how patients always asked specifically for her. But the best speech came from Margaret, who had become like a grandmother to Sophie. "I have watched this family form over the past year," she said, her voice full of emotion. "I have seen love grow where there was loneliness. I have seen hope blossom where there was despair. I have seen a community come together to support two people who needed help. This is what life is supposed to be about. Taking care of each other, showing kindness, being there when someone needs you." Ben and Rachel, your story reminds us all that we should never give up, that we should always look for the good in people, that we should always be willing to help when we can. Thank you for letting us be part of your journey. As the sun set and the party continued, Ben and Rachel stood together watching Sophie dance with Margaret. They held hands and smiled at each other, their happiness complete. "Thank you for stopping your car that night," Rachel said softly. "Thank you for letting me help you," Ben replied. "Do you think Jennifer would approve?" Rachel asked, looking up at him. Ben smiled and looked up at the sky. "I think she is up there right now, smiling down at us. I think she sent you to me because she knew we both needed each other. I think this is exactly what she would have wanted." Rachel leaned against Ben's shoulder and watched their daughter play. She thought about the frozen bus stop where her old life had ended. She thought about the warm car that had carried her to a new beginning. She thought about all the people who had shown her kindness when she needed it most. Life had been hard. There had been moments when Rachel thought she could not go on. But she had survived. She had persevered. And now she was standing in a beautiful garden, married to the man she loved, surrounded by people who cared about her. This was not the life Rachel had planned. It was better. It was proof that sometimes the worst moments can lead to the best outcomes. It was proof that kindness matters, that love conquers, that hope wins. As the stars began to appear in the darkening sky, Rachel made a silent promise to herself. She would pay forward all the kindness she had received. She would help others the way Ben and this community had helped her. She would make sure that no one felt as alone and hopeless as she had felt that night at the bus stop. Because that is what you do when you have been given a second chance. You do not waste it. You treasure it. You share it with others. And you live every day grateful for the unexpected kindness of strangers who become family.